Yeah, I would say when we developed the AppStudio, we had several things in mind, and we really wanted to target the problems or the challenges, I would say, we've seen out there in the market. So therefore, I would also like to start a little bit with the background information before we then directly jump into all the real technical details. So the first thing I would say I've seen a lot of times still is the complexity of robotic integration. And I would like to compare it, I would say, with a flat pack furniture. You have all the pieces in place, but if you don't have a manual, if you don't have instruction and just this pile of parts, then it's still quite tricky to actually really, yeah, bring all those things together. And I would say this is what I still see a lot of times. So we have a lot of things in place, but still doing the integration is quite tricky for many people, and not just for beginners, but also really for the experts. And here I would say we identified two areas where it was most complex, that was creating user interfaces. But the second area was we have seen a lot of people actually starting from scratch, really starting with their first line of rapid code. And we said, actually, there are already so many great applications out there. So why are people not just starting from an example, from a template? The second area I would say is really the demand for customization as such. And I would compare it a little bit to a smartphone. So what's the first thing you do when you get a new smartphone? And when we think about customization, then a lot of people have the icons, the background, all those things in mind. But I think there's one more thing which is even more crucial, and that is you add your own apps. You really add the functionality you need to your smartphone. And I think this is a demand we see more and more also then coming in the robotics area. So more and more customers actually ask for their very specific user interface, often for the operator, sometimes for the setup. And here, basically, it's not just a one size fits all, but it should really fit for exactly this customer, this interface typically. And then last but not least, I think scalability is in general something where we get more and more requests for. Let me compare this to a video game. On a video game, I mean, you start on level 1, learning the basics, but once you get better, you unlock new levels. But with new levels, you also have tougher challenges, and you also get cooler tools. Those cooler tools and all the things are still in this environment of a video game. And I think this is something we also really wanted to address. We really wanted to reach on the AppStudio side. So it should be super easy to get actually started for everyone. But then when you grow with your knowledge, but also when your projects grow, getting bigger, getting more complex, you should be able to level up and then actually still use the AppStudio to get your things done. The AppStudio is a new program released from ABB beginning of this year, and it's basically in the middle between the Robot Studio and then also the Flex Pendant software. So in Robot Studio, I mean, you have the virtual environment where you can simulate the robot, so basically also the virtual robot. So AppStudio can connect to this on one side, but then on the other side, AppStudio can also connect to the real robot and also, as I said, create the user interfaces on the Flex Pendant. AppStudio works with all OmniCore powered robots and cobots, so basically all the robots next year. And most of the robots this year, we are basically phasing out our IRC5 controller right now. And it's also open for all kind of application, from machine tending, via packaging, welding, but then also very, very custom application. So it's really a tool on, I would say, on a platform level, supporting all our robots and all applications. I would say there are 5 main things in the AppStudio which I would put as a key functionality. So first of all, to create user interfaces, you can start drag and drop. And a lot of interfaces, you don't need any coding knowledge. You can really realize them drag and drop. So it's super easy to get started and to actually succeed with a lot of user interfaces. When you create a user interface with the AppStudio, it will work on multiple screens. So you can basically create one screen and then show this screen on the Flex Panel, on a PC, on a tablet, or even on your phone. So with the latest update, you can even make a very specific arrangement for a compact screen, but still it's the same screen. You just deploy once on the robot controller. Also translation. We see more and more the request of saying, especially when you want to provide something as a standard, for example, a standard gripper interface, that this is also available in a lot of languages. So when you build your screen with the AppStudio, that comes basically out of the box. So whenever you change the language of the Flex Panel, the language of your user interface will change as well. Talking about those user interfaces, we have the drag and drop on the left side, but there are also a huge opportunity of what you can do if you inject your JavaScript code into AppStudio. So, and I think this is what today's webinar is really all about, to show you what can you done also in the background on top of the already drag and drop provided possibilities, not throwing everything away, but really adding your functionality on top. And last but not least, a separate area in the AppStudio itself is a cloud library. And here you can find all kinds of examples, templates. So on one hand, of course, also for the user interfaces, but it's much more. It's also rapid examples, it's CAD models, it's Visual Easy programming blocks. So have a look in there. It's growing every time. And I ask also you, if you have something interesting to share, please share it, because at the end, if we grow together as a community, this is where we create the true value and make the cloud library even more important. If you have never heard about all those things, if you have not seen the AppStudio yet, then I can also refer to the recording, which will be online in a few days, of the introduction webinar we have done yesterday, because here I will not dig more into the details, but as said, there was a webinar for this yesterday as well. Here's some example screens. You can have a very easy screen, like very often requested on a demo, a few things just to select for a customer. Then in the middle, you can see a typical interface for the integration of third-party accessories. So that can be gripper, that can be a lift kit, that can be all kinds of things where typically you have some configuration you want to do. So you don't need an extra screen. You can do it directly on the Flex Panel. Or you want to have the manual interaction. Let's say you want to manually open and close the gripper. And then underneath, you can see the example of a full palletizing application. So you can configure the full palletizing on this screen. And this screen is, of course, more complex, has multiple layers on top of each other, nested in each other. And here also, the ambition is that you can show this on different devices. But also here is then at the end also more JavaScript code in the background needed. And as I said, we will see more of this afterwards. For the ones who already have their robot and who might have all the robotware, there's one important thing. I really ask all of you, go into your robot under settings and go to the web app mode and switch to the Chromium mode. Those screens you can build in the AppStudio are basically websites running on the robot controller. And how do we show a website? I mean, you go to a browser and you call the website. So that's actually the way how you can show those sites on your PC, on a phone, to go on the browser and just go to the page on the robot controller. On the Flex Panel, we have our own browser included. And here we updated to a better version, basically. So you can also utilize the full functionality, I mean, with, I would say, up-to-date functionality. So if you have all the robotware, make sure you're in the Chromium mode. If you have the latest one and also future robotware, this will anyway be the default mode, so you don't have to do anything then. Last but not least, we have 2 e-learnings, one for beginner and one for experts, which is directly linked in the AppStudio. You can also find release note there. You have the link to the forum, which is quite active. And then you can also contact basically the development team directly. And so if you click on this, your feedback will directly end up at the development team. I will also see it. And then basically we have the chance to really react on your input. And I mean, if you have good feedback, we love this. But if you have suggestions for improvement, I think that's always good. If you have a bug, still very good to receive it. So I would really encourage everyone use this, because I think that is a great possibility as well. And with this, I'm super proud. I'm super happy to actually hand over to my colleague Raul, because he will really dig with you into all the technical details and in the great possibilities you have behind the drag and drop.
Thank you very much, Katia, and welcome everybody to this webinar. I'm very happy to be here presenting you and answer some of the questions that already were delivered. Thank you for that as well. That helps us also to improve our webinars. And today I am going to go through some of these questions, and at the end I will try to give a little space for further questions that may arise during the webinar. But for the already delivered questions, I prepared a web app which we are going through, in which I'm going to talk about these different topics. We go one to one, trying to solve the issue what was stated in the question. I am assuming that you have played already with AppStudio in forehand. I am also assuming that you have at least basic knowledge in JavaScript and topics related to web development, because we are going to go today a little deeper, not only using the inbuilt functionalities, but also apply some custom code to reach our goals. I will start. Let me first see here in this example. I will start with the first topic, which I think here we can read better, which is the question is, it is possible to add an event to a signal so that, for example, when the signal is changed, a calculation on the signal value is done and the calculated value is presented in a text box. Yes, it is possible. Here I did a little example for doing that, in which I accessing a signal. In this case, I am accessing a group signal. We are going to work today with this virtual controller, in which I have the required resources to run the web application and corresponding signals and so on. And in this case, we are talking about the group IO signal, which I am modifying, as you just saw. I just changed the value to 40, and here I am presenting an modified value. I just simply multiplying by 1000. That is my modification in this case. And the question is how I did it. Normally, when you have your components, you can't directly synchronize with signals. Here, for this case, I am doing that in order to influence this signal. Here, we can synchronize with the controller, go for the signals and look for our signals. That will do the trick in this first part. And the question is how I am connecting this one as well and modifying the value. In this case, I could also synchronize with the signal, but I will not have in this case the opportunity to do some own business logic in between. In order to do that, instead of doing here the direct synchronization, I am doing that in one of the events available for this element. We have in all the elements our own created and own mounted, which are events related to the life cycle of the components. And here in the uncreated, I am doing, that is the moment the instance was instantiated. And here I have the first opportunity to do some setup related to this component. And as you can see here, I am doing a monitoring of a signal. For that, I am using the API with this link in every editor opened in the inside AppStudio. You will get access to this link, which is opening the the AppStudio documentation, and there we have basically related to the T components, which are the elements, inbuilt elements inside the AppStudio, as well as the API. In this case, I am working with the API. And here you have a set of functionalities and different domains for different topics to get access to the controller. So this is really the part that is interacting with the controller itself. The T components themselves are using this infrastructure to do their job. So here, as you can see, I am using the API signal monitor, which is a function available in which I am connecting to the name of my signal, and I am creating a callback function, which is going to react every time this signal is changed. In this case, I am putting an adapter function here to the value that I am getting, and this I am putting in this text, and this text refers to the text property of this component, and this component is where I am here, in which component I am mounted. Then I can here use inside the this property to target its own properties and do whatever I can do with the component itself. So here my adapter is not doing too much, just simply multiplying by 1000, and with this I am putting that into the element that I want to target, and that is basically the step I am doing every time something changes with the signal. And here for the initialization, I am also taking the properties of my component. I am changing these properties. I am making it read only, and I am initializing the text once again with my adapter, and the value that I got with this one shot getting the value of the signal, which is also available inside the API. This time inside the Robot Web Services, you have in the Robot Web Services implementation also direct access to the controller. You can see in the documentation there are domains with business logic. There is something built around the access, and you have other domains in which it's more about, for example, this is about the Robot Web Services. There internally you have simply functions to do some kind of access, and you have in here also a couple of domains for doing motion related actions, rapid directed actions, signal, and so on. So I invite you to really explore, get confident with this documentation that will help you a lot to reach your goals. So that is this first question, and I think with this we answered the question. In this way, I am able to connect my element with a signal. The same applies for variables. Instead of signal monitor, I use the variable monitor, and so on. It's the same concept, but only for variables. The next question is, can you limit the value to be inputted in a field according to rapid settings? They mentioned these settings. I'm not aware of these settings, but I am assuming that this person is talking about the rapid parameter or the parameters inside the configuration of the controller. And yeah, the answer is yes. One can take that as a reference. One can get access to that. If I go to the controller, it is basically what is here inside the configuration. Normally, one gets a lot in contact with the signals. These are also a part of the configuration. But besides the signal, we have also a bunch of other parameters. I am using for this example the join parameters, only as for the example, not a special reason. And I'm taking this first linear step size as my reference value, which I am going to apply. Here, if we go to the running web application, we can say, okay, now here I have the minimum of 0, and I can move until then. This component has these min and max values, and I am just simply setting sorry, this one. And I just simply giving here the value that I want to apply. Then I press my button to set the new mean value. I'm taking this value for the controller from the parameters, is this one that you already saw. And now I am forcing this element to use it as a mean. Here in this is pretty similar, but here I am using it as a validator. For example, if I use this value, it's not accepted. If I start using this value as a minimum, then it will apply, and so on. Of course, bigger values apply as well. So in this case, I prefer to use a validator. If we go to this component, you don't see any validator input here. It's related to a callback. So we can put it here, basically, find it. We are doing everything here in the set new mean value. And here we are going to also see different ways of accessing different components in different sections of your web app. Here, starting by getting the parameters from the controller. For this purpose, we are using the robot web services, which is part for some of you who have already worked with our controller in the past. You may be aware that we have the Omnicore app SDK. This has been already existing many years before the AppStudio appear, and now it's still valid. Is also what AppStudio is using as a background, and it is also available for the user as well. So if you download the API, you can get access to the documentation, which can give you also a lot of useful information how to get access to the controller. Well, we will not go into the details here, but you can see here you have also different possibilities, even some components available there. We are going to use one today, but normally we are using the T components, which are wrappers on top of them, providing additional functionality or customization. So in this case, and just to show you, if we go to our browser and execute the application, which we can do as well, here you can check in the console and you can see you have here all the functionalities inside the robot web services global variable. The API is pretty much the same concept. You have here all functionalities available, and what's also very important is the instance, which is where you can get access to all the instances that are running inside your application. In this way, you have they always available at any part of your program for manipulation. So that's what we are doing. We are accessing the parameter, and with that, we are calculating, or we are getting our mean value. We are just printing it in the mean val instance, which you can see that will be this one. Is the name I gave it to the instance, and additionally to that, we can get access to the other components. As I mentioned, the increment-decrement component has its own mean property, which you can as well see here. Normally, you can here give a initial value to the component and influence the behavior of the component, but programmatically as well, you can do it. And here I am resetting the value to a new value. And for the input field, it's a bit different. There we can apply a validator. Here we have the input field, we have the validator property, and there I am applying a validator, which is simply a function which is returning true or false depending where the condition is met or not. And with that, I am able to influence and limit the inputs from the user into the field. And as you can see here, we have as well regex. I am applying here the number regex in order to limit the inputs only to numbers as well. You can apply also custom regex if you wish. For this use case, I prefer to apply the validator on top and combine it only with the number regex. And with this, I am able to reach this to solve this question. Say, yeah, we can apply that based on rapid configuration parameters. The next one, it is more related to more in the JavaScript world than, but also combine it to the access to the controller, how to modify a table cell properties according to its value. For example, turn cell color to red if the value of the current cell is false, and how to update those when cell value change in rapid code. So here we have two different aspects combined. On the one hand is the connection of the table with our controller. And here we have the opportunity to do that. We can handle also arrays and two-dimensional arrays and so on. Inside the AppStudio, we can get access to the single elements. And this component is doing that by its own, so we don't need any special treatment here. Here we are just simply selecting the table value, which we can see here. If we go to our rapid, this is the module which we are working at the moment, and you can see we have the table variable, which I can monitoring here as well, and we are connecting that to the table. With this is the one thing needed to synchronize with a variable, and from that perspective, that's it. And in order to influence the look and feel of the table, we are basically doing in the unmounted event, which means the component has been already rendered into the view. Then we can apply additional actions because we know the element is inside the HTML DOM. And there we have access to it already. So here, what we are doing, we are using a JavaScript tool that is always available, and it's called the mutation observer. And this one, it is checking whether the component into which we are hooking is changing or not. Why I'm not using a callback in this case? Because internally this table recreate the table with new elements, so I don't have always one single element that I can add a listener to it. In this case, I have the observer, which is going a little beyond, a little on the top of the whole table. As you can see here, I'm using the this container, and the container of the this or the container of any element is the wrapper of everything behind this component. And with this, you can get access at the DOM level to this component. And with that, do some manipulation. Here, that is what we are doing. We are connecting to it. We are hooking the observer. And inside the observer, we are applying the recolor cells function, which is basically starting from the container, is looking for this property somewhere. If we go to the browser version and we go here, you will see here already the visual effect that we are influencing. And if we go here, we can take a look into the DOM, and we will see here are this information. We can find this information in order to identify where is which cell. So that's what we are using here. And here we are finding the cell that we want to influence. And then depending of the value that we got inside the cell, then we are manipulating the style of this single element. And with this, we are reaching this effect of, if we can see the same here practically. And if we go, for example, here to our rapid wall and change the value, you can see it is reacting. If I go here and say false, and with this, the table is reacting to the change from rapid. I have here additionally a way to manipulate that directly, but AppStudio allows either other. So if I synchronize to a signal, I cannot modify the table by hand here. If I want to do that, I have to break the synchronization here. And then with that, deploy the project, and these components will help me just simply to modify the values, and we will see the same effect in the colors as well. One thing that I didn't comment at the beginning, in this project that I am showing you today, we are going to share it via AppStudio Cloud in the coming days. So I'm going to upload that so that you can get access to all these examples that we are seeing today. The next one is it is possible to create a set of parameters, for example, ROP targets that are stored in a wizard program, and then those could be shown and modified in AppStudio. Each wizard program needs to have own set of parameters. So this here is a combination of a couple of concepts. First of all, here we are going to talk about modifying parameters and even modifying variables and even creating new variables. Normally, what is very typical is to modify existing variables. And here, if I go to the application running, we can see in this section, I am doing that. And here, I don't have yet any variable here. So let me just simply add a variable, and it is now available. Let me add a new one. Here now the selector, I added it twice. This is actually wrong. If we go to rapid, we are going to see that we have here the same one, and which is wrong. That will create an error. So I'm not doing any error handling here. So that is responsibility of the user when we are doing this kind of intervention, which is not the typical one, to be honest, but it is very powerful. But when we are doing this kind of intervention, we have to take care of what we are doing. Yeah, otherwise we can't maybe break the module. Yeah, but as I did it just now. So now I'm creating a new one, and now we have two different variables, which makes more sense. And these are available here. I can get the value, as you can see, and then I can modify the value, set the value, and you can see here this is happening. And this section is a classical way of accessing variables, existing variables. And this section is a more fancy way to manipulate actually the module itself. And we are explicitly adding these lines of code into the module. And with this, we are creating new instances. So let's go first to the section which is more the conventional way of working. Here you can see I have here, I'm using here the fetch variable function, which I created to get all the variables that are available. We will take a look into it. Here I'm using the get variable value, and here I'm using the set variable value. And here actually I'm not doing anything at all. So I am doing that indirectly. So here, fetch variables, as you can see here, there are also as a part of the infrastructure that you have available, you have the opportunity to search variables. This we are doing through our task object, which is one object that can be provided by AppStudio. By default value, we are using the TROP1 task, which is, if I go to the controller, is this domain here, everything inside here. This is the TROP1. And by default is this. If you want another task, you just give it the name, and you get the task object, which provides you a set of functionalities. One of those is the search variables, in which you have to give the module when you want to search. And here we have is in use, yes or no, and a filter where you can add more particularities of what you are looking. In this case, I'm saying I want all the persistent variables of type num. Yeah, and one is getting here the list. Here I am converting the list to some format that can be accepted by my selector component. And this format is basically a string having a type and value, text and value, and each entry separated by this symbol here. And with this, I create the format appropriate for the selector. If we go here, normally the AppStudio, normally when you use a selector and do it with AppStudio, you get this kind of interaction, so you don't need to do this string handling behind the scenes. But in this case, I am manipulating this programmatically. I am doing that in that way, but this is basically generating that. And here in this case, I am doing by my own. So here I am doing that, and then assigning that to the selector. Here the same, I am accessing the selector with the global instance variable. So with this, I am updating my selector. And if you take a look here, just to bind the dots, here you can see, well, I using the add variable here. I will go in a second there, just the last line of it. I am using the fetch variable here as well to update the selector when I add a new variable. But coming back to the get and variable and set variable first, here we can see we have, I'm using again AppStudio, the API, the rapid domain to get a variable value. I'm just giving the module name, the variable name, which we know is here inside this selector, is the selected value. And with that, I am getting the value. And once I get it, I am putting in the input 27 text, which you may guess is here. Yeah. Pretty much the same for set variables, only just the other way around. Here, set variable value. Here I am applying the same logic, but in reverse. Here I am I'm getting the value from the component, and with the set variable value, I am putting it into the real rapid variable. And here you will see this guy, for example, this is sync persist. This helped me to update the module text here. This, if I don't use it or I use it as a false, the value may change internally. If you put the mouse, you will see the real value. But if it is false, it will not change here if your file is open, for example. It's more aesthetical thing, but sometimes it's quite confusing that you see one value here and you see another here. So sometimes beneficial, but I can tell you already, this works only when no program is running. If the program is running, you cannot update the module as such, and you will get an error thrown by the attempt of doing that, more like a warning. But the value will reach the real variable, that is for sure. So that's it from the conventional way of dealing with variables. And this more advanced way is not even really supported by AppStudio at the moment. As I mentioned, we are doing here using this add variable, and this is more like our own implementation. But it is worth to also to show you this, so you can get a feeling of what all is possible to do with AppStudio and with the interfaces that we provide here. So here with the add value, I am making use of some robot web services that I extra implemented for this project, and I am putting them all inside my API, which you can see it is here. If we take a look here, we can see I have a set of functions that I'm using for this project. And these functions, basically, the majority are basically robot web services that I'm writing by hand. Yeah, they are not yet supported, but something actually, yes. But I included it all here to wrap all together and to give you the impression what it means to create your own robot web service. And what is a robot web service? If you go to a web page of robot web services from the ABB controller, the OmniCore, you will find here all the information about it. Is very, very low level and sometimes hard to follow if you don't really know about the REST API, which is the way of communicating with the controller. But anyway, you have here all the information that you require. You don't need to become expert with this interface, but you need is to know which kind of URL that you need to apply to reach a specific goal. And you can see here, we have a bunch of services and for different purpose, and these are available also for your usage. Also, if they are not available inside the AppStudio. Some of the things you can reach with the SDK, what I showed you. The SDK is using these services. Other stuff which may not be available in SDK is available in the API. And if not, you can help yourself by doing this kind of implementation. Basically, I'm using the SDK for making this happen, as you can see. And then I am processing the return value. This I am doing. Well, this is not a robot web service as such, but this one, for example, here I am doing one for search some text in a module. This one, the first one was for get the module text as a whole, or you can get also a range, and you can write also into a module a specific line, and so on. So with this, you can do strong manipulation of your modules which are loaded in the controller. So we are not going to details. You will get these examples so you can study it with some time. But this is basically what I am using in this case to add a new variable. Here, as you can see, I am searching from some entry point, which in this case, I decide to be the first line of my module. And then I am creating my own line of code, which I am injecting into the module. That is basically the trick. And as I mentioned at the end, I am getting all the new available variables back to the AppStudio. With this way, I can reach this kind of behavior, which can be very powerful for you, and combine it with the next topic, which is, let me go back to the web app. So here, I think I'm not sure if we saw it in action. Yes, we saw it. We have here a couple of variables that we create, and they are now part of our module. And here, for example, here we are working with the program, and the program means here, everything here inside. So we have our main program, which is here at the main. And basically that is what you can find when you open the wizard. Let me open the wizard, which is our graphical interface for programming without needing to do coding, which I also strongly recommend you to use it. For some situation, it's very, very handy. It's more efficient than going to Robot Studio and writing some lines of code. Here, it's also the easy to use the idea in behind. And here, for example, we have also these functionalities. This is part of the system already, the save and load of programs. And whenever you do that, everything is here in in this section is going to be saved in the home program directory. As you can see, I did already a couple of times. And if you take a look inside, you will see you are saving everything, not only the main. And with that, you can create your own recipes, your own programs, together binded with your own set of variables. So if we can see here, for example, oh, sorry, I'm jumping here. I am in the wizard tree now, and I said load program. I want to save the other. I say no, and then I load the wizard 2, confirm, and it's been loaded. And we can see, for example, in the wizard 2, I have my old signals values as false. And if I go here and I say load program the wizard 3, in this case, you can see we have another set of values and they are automatically loaded, and the whoever subscribe to that values, it is getting the new values and so on. And together with this updating of different values, of course, that apply as well to the instances that you have created, not here, but here, for example, the module 3, I didn't save it, so I lost this variable 1, variable 2. But for example, if I go and I say here, let's add the variable 2 again, we can see it here. Now I go back to my program and I say save current program. I'm going to override it, the 3, yeah. And now we can see here in our program tree, we have the value. So whenever I load it, it's going to come with the module. This is a very powerful thing if you can use it properly, combining setting variables, creating instance, changing variables with the program handling. You can really work with the concept of recipes without really needing to do too much. The only piece of amount of work that you need to do is not so trivial at the moment. It will become easier in the future. This is this program handling, which I have. If we go here, as you will see here, I am using also in my API some functions that I created for this purpose, save current project or load program. And if we go there, we can see in the API, if we close here, we can find the save current program. It's a little bit of code, a little more than just an robot web service, because here I am handling the window. If you can see here, I say, for example, save current program. I just managed to, somehow it was logged out. Let me log it again. So here in these two, behind these two buttons, there's some kind of logic there. And here, for example, load program is asking me if I want to save the current one. If I say okay, then I can save it, and so on. And then I can get access to the new one. All this logic is what is here behind. Then you can also learn how to use the keyboard for such kind of activities and so on. And also for updating the active program and so on. All this logic is included there, and we are just simply using it. But at the end, behind all these activities, at the end, there is a robot web services for saving the program and for loading the program, and that is what I am using here. Let's not go into details because we don't have too much time left. Let me just finish with the procedure execution. Also, that was one question. How can we execute a procedure? There are different ways to do that. The easiest way is if we use the inbuilt functionality. That is, I hold my button and then say execute procedure, and then I can here select the procedures that I have available here. That will be for example, this one, and that will execute the procedure. What happened, it creates this call. This is basically what I did with this first button. But there is a question arising, can I execute a procedure and then come back to the pointer where it was before? This is not available as an inbuilt functionality, but it can be implemented. It is what I did here, execute procedure and return. And if we go here, you will see it's a little more of stuff there. Normally the functionality of getting the pointer is available in the API, but we discover a bug there. Therefore, in this version, it's not working, but we will fix it, and in the coming version will work, and then we need less kind of this code to get the information. But here what we are simply doing is getting the pointer, executing the new procedure that you want, and then waiting until the procedure finish by checking the state of the controller. You could also subscribe and maybe do a monitoring and stuff like that. But here I'm just simply making a while until it happens. And at the end, when it is done, then I am moving the cursor back to the controller. And if we take a look at this example, let's say, let's play our program. And if we open, we can see we are moving there. And then let me just stop here, and to execute a procedure, it needs to be not running. Then I can execute my own procedure, which is just a text here. And then if I move back my pointer to the original place, and with that, I can continue my program. So this is basically the idea. Some of you asked for that, and that will be a way to go. And finally, also one question arises today in the morning, and I think also good to know is the message windows. There is support for messages. If you go here and in behavior, you say on click, you can get the, I went too far, the message box, and you will get this to apply to a message. There is, you can add more here, and that is what I'm doing here in the different fashions. For applying for a message, for a warning, you will see here I'm using a warning. There is the danger, which is for an error, using the same convention as the previous ones. And we have an special for error, which is for JavaScript errors, to input the errors as just simply, that is when you catch an error that you can print it and provide the proper information. You can do that as well. There is one confirm with OK and cancel. And here in this example, I am putting a callback to react to the button that was pressed. In the previous ones, you can also put a callback if you wish. Here it start making more sense because you have to make a choice. And here, this last one is not supported yet by the T components or by the AppStudio itself. It is more coming from the FP components, the SDK. As you can see here, I am using, instead of T components, I'm using the FP components pop-up. And this is allowing me a couple of more things. If we see it in action, we can see here custom, and here you can have multiple selections, customized selections, and you can say, okay, here in this case, I just simply saying which machine do you want to select, and no machine, or maybe machine A, and so on. So also powerful, and it's a feature for sure available as part of the AppStudio framework. At the moment, accessible via the FP components, as you can see here. And with this, I think I stop now, just finalizing by saying here we have a little additional information. This was a webinar hold for 1 month, more or less, and I recommend you to take a look. It's also a little advanced, and you will get there a couple of hints about how to work with the AppStudio, and it's more related to motion, interesting maybe for you as well. So please take a look on that. And here's the link for the robot web services as an information as well available. And with that, I conclude and would like to invite you to answer some questions.
Great. Thank you, Raul, and thank you, Katja, for the introduction and the demonstration here. We had a few questions come in, so let's go ahead. We will start with them in chronological order. So the first question from Jakob, I had version 1.1.0 with some web apps. Since the update, all connections are lost. Did I do something wrong, or is this by design?
No, not by design. It should work, and I put it in the chat. My recommendation is check the version we will release in a few days, because most likely it might fix it because we had some backward compatibility issues, but that should be fixed.
Great, thank you. If working on a virtual robot and there are more than one virtual controller running, will there be a way to select one?
Yeah, currently not. That is currently a limit we have also in the release notes. So currently, if you have multiple virtual controllers, it kind of auto connects, but that's in the backlog. Not super soon, but we know about it at least.
Great, thank you. Question from Bryant. I would like examples on how to read and write to a rapid pers variable that is a multi-dimensional array. Like have an input box, read and write to one member element of a multi-dimensional array variable.
We have currently already the support for accessing single elements of a complex array variable. For example, here, no, not this one. Let me just go and take this. Here, we can synchronize to a variable, and then we can say, okay, let's go take this debug, which we know is an array, and here we can access the table, and as you can see here, I can access single elements of my table, and with this I can really connect to the one element of the table, in this case, in this example, and I could manipulate this one single value. So this applies already in general to arrays, and it's supported. You can do that also with the API. In the API, you handle the array variable in the same way as you handle a normal variable. And what you are going to get when you say get value, you are going to get an object, and this object is containing all the information. And then you need to go to the one that you wish to manipulate, and then you need to send the whole variable back. In this case, the AppStudio is doing that for you, but if you need some more complex business logic where eventually you need to do it by your own, it is also possible.
And I think that's a good example. That was not available in the very first version we launched, but we're constantly adding functionality. So I think make sure you have the latest version because there are new things constantly added.
Great. There was another question about the versions here. In a web app 1.1.0, I had some digital LED or switch. Compiling this project from 1.2.0, those elements are not shown on the virtual flex pendant anymore.
Yeah, I would say the LED is another part of this check for the 1.2.1. I know it was in the list.
Yep. So update to the latest version coming out. Great. There was a follow-up question here. So can we access it from JavaScript too? I think it was referring to the three-dimensional array question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right then. So those were the questions that we had, and I can see that we are right on time. We have filled our hour here. Let's see if we get some more input here. Yeah, some feedback there on the answers. Happy that we can help you out to move forward in your projects. Before we close this session, I'd like to hand it back to our presenters to see if you have some final thoughts or some key takeaways from this session. So, Katja?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, big thanks to you, Raul. Super great to see all the details also shown here. Thanks a lot for all the questions you provided to the audience, because I think that is exactly what we should have. You have things, you try things, but we also really want to be there to answer them. Yeah, and then I would say use it, bring the great experience to our common users. And if you have something interesting, then I can just encourage everyone to really share it in the cloud library, because I think this is where we can really grow all together then.
Perfect. Raul?
Yes, from my side, I just want to give you the message that the AppStudio is growing in functionality and so on, but it will eventually reach the point, or you are going to reach the point where you need something that is not provided by the AppStudio inbuilt. And please do not stop there. As you can see today, there is a bunch that one can do as well. This is everything that can be done with JavaScript can be applied here. So it can be very powerful. So I encourage you to really go a little bit deeper and really implement your own business logic and take a look in the docu to help yourself, and then you will reach much more than what is just here available with drag and drop. And
Yes.
as Katia said, share. Will be great.
Yes.